skill and experience. We've used the same Baker wireline crew. We have our, the same people from our team in the logging truck. The only thing that's been different has been the lubricator, the pack-off company.
Is it a slick line or electric line?
It's electric.
The slick line would not catch when packing, like you talking about,
Yeah,
and be a little more sensitive.
yeah. The reason we're not using a slick line is we need those conductors for the tools that we're running. We're running a pretty sophisticated downhole pressure bomb tool and a density tool. If it was just a matter of dropping a sinker bar in and watching the weight indicator and watching the depth, then we could get by with a sinker or with the slick line and not have to deal with that so much. But I've seen cases where slick lines can get balled up too.
Oh yeah.
Get in line.
No, electric line is a lot more.
Yeah, it's a lot like the surveying that we do on the sinkhole. You can do it and walk away with a figure, and you have to realize there's a certain plus or minus, a certain range of uncertainty. But every time you do it, you start to build a record, and then that record develops into a trend, and it narrows that range of uncertainty. The same thing kind of holds true for the tagging of the TD. But for the life of me, I can't explain how it could have possibly moved down 350 feet. I think we probably were wrong in interpreting that it was up near the roof.
Would it be possible that they are accurate and that we're losing material through the aquifer or some other means?
I would rule nothing out here. I would rule nothing out, but I'll tell you that is a massive volume of material. I mean, 350 feet in this cavern probably equals somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 million barrels. That's a big chunk of stuff, and for it to just move away, go away in a 2-week period would have created something that we would have detected. I mean, we've got seismograph or seismometers out there. We've got water level indicators on the sinkhole. And as you all know, this thing's behaving like a U-tube. Something can happen over here on the sinkhole, and we can see it on the cavern. Well, there just hasn't been anything dramatic that would suggest that kind of event occurred. Not saying it's not possible, but time will tell. We're not going to step away from the logging process. We'll be back out here next Friday. And I'm going to have my butt in the logging truck so I can watch everything that goes on and sort of back check what the guys are doing, just to make sure that they're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So that's a bit of bad news from our perspective, because like I said, we were looking at the relative calm and the seismicity, and we were looking at those tagging depths up near the roof as positive signs that this thing has run its course. It's filled up. The seismic record would suggest that there's not any big massive volumes of material that are still falling down. Well, even though that still may hold true, we now have this uncertainty about the 350 feet in the roof. So we're just going to have to keep watching it. The good news is the seismicity remains high. It's been late December since we've had any significant amount of seismicity. So I think that's a positive development. What we're seeing now is what we call background seismic activity, and this is located. We can actually locate events that are near active brine production wells. And from the experience of the guys that we hired to help us build this network, they've got a couple of decades doing this over in Europe because it's required over there. They're telling us this is natural. We're just solution mining salt. The salt, every ton that you move out, you remove load from the salt, and it dilates. It basically expands a little bit, and sometimes it can crack or fracture and make a little bit of seismic energy, and that's what we think is being picked up now from the instruments that we have. Still some shallow MEQs occasionally picked up around the sinkhole, which is to be expected. I would think that at any given time, we might have a 20 or 30 foot piece of this clay material that's up top that has a steep boundary. It could slough off. I mean, there's still some of that that's possible, but there's not anything that would suggest that there's any gross consumption of material taking place out in the middle. I mean, the changes that we're seeing in the tagging or the sounding of the bottom of the sinkhole are pretty consistent. I think the latest were 220, 230 feet. The last time we met, it was around 200. The time before, it was around 180. So there's still some things going on. I believe that compaction is probably driving most of what's going on right now. Compaction may be what caused this change in the tagging of the solids in the cavern. It may be compaction, and it may be the fact that the suspended material had time to settle out. If you take a brine and you mud it up with solids, clay, you can bulk it up to the extent that a tool doesn't go through it very easily. But if you give it time to settle down and settle out, it becomes more like brine water, then that tool can go through it. So I think that's a possibility. But in any event, we're going to keep monitoring.
Can you confirm on camera for this armchair expert up in Kentucky that Texas Brine is not using sinkhole waters to brine? Because that's his theory of this carbon drop,
Yes.
and he has people believing it.
Yeah, that's confirmed.
We're using the same water wells we used before the sinkhole formed, and
Not the sinkhole.
not the sinkhole.
Now, this is a Kentuckian that's making these kind of claims?
Yeah.
That's never been down here since
It's long,
this all
it's
started.
If you read all the crap, you would.
We also, we report all the water that we use
That's what you're
to
telling
DNR
me.
and which wells it comes from.
Experts, I have
no
no
idea.
And all reported.
what they, I'm just hoping Pete hears it himself, you know.
Just a couple other developments. As you all know, we own several of the homes down on Sportsman in an effort to reduce our costs. To be honest with you, we're like anybody else, we're trying to contain our costs. And also to get folks further integrated into the community, we thought we'd take advantage of having those homes and moving some of our people in. And that's a process that we're continuing on. And I can give you my firm assurances, these are good people. Half of them standing right here. Charlie Burton, he's a solid guy. One thing he's ever,
It would be nice to have them come up so we know what they look like.
Charlie,
who they are.
Yeah, I'm in,
Neal's not here right now, but Charlie's, what town, where you from?
Chattanooga, Tennessee, so I've been working on the response for about 8 months.
What home do you live in?
So, my home do I live in? It's 133.
Danny's house.
Oh,
Danny's up there.
So I've been there for
Across
a
the
week.
street.
My counterpart, Neal Strickland, he was there for a couple weeks, so we rotate out every 2 weeks. So, that's,
They did background checks?
Charlie, the only thing Charlie's ever been arrested for was singing too loud in church. Did about a week probation for that.
yeah.
No.
So, I
He's-
mean,
yeah.
I can answer any questions you want about me personally. I mean, I've got 3 kids, I'm married 25 years, a couple weeks ago, so.
If I moved in, then you got concerns.
No. You would have concerns.
It's not the idea of moving.
You would have concerns.
Really? You have a target on my back?
It's
that
not
off,
the
turn that off
idea
for 1
of
second.
moving, it's the idea of he's between us.
Yeah.
I have nothing against
You know-
anybody, but hey, look, I'm moving in, I'm with so-and-so,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be your neighbor now. When you see me, you'll know who I am.
You have no idea?
That's what
I get that, we get that, and it's part of the cultural differences of where we're from. I mean, I can't tell you two things about the neighbor that lives 2 streets down from me
You
in
don't know
Houston.
by now how close we are
I
down this
know that now,
neighborhood.
know that now,
We're
yeah,
not an ordinary neighborhood,
wow,
so
yeah.
you can't go by where you live or whatever. This neighborhood is close knit, and we want to know everything.
Right, well, this is one guy, Neal will be the other.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Mike, you all have known Mike's been living in.
I've been living on the north side of 70 since January of last year. And I can vouch for Neal Strickland, Charlie's counterpart. I've known Neal for 10 years, and his arrest record is even smaller than Charlie's.
Okay.
We do have Paul Scott will be moving into the Cusho property here sometime in early April. He's not here on site currently, but as I mentioned at Mr. Lender's house, he's the other person that'll be moving in one of the houses, and that'll be sometime in early to mid-April. And when he's back on site for the project, we'll get him back around to introduce him as well.
And Paul's bringing his wife that
Yeah.
owns that lot, so.
Paul's the site manager for Tetra Tech, in case you haven't met him. He's been working here since pretty much Tetra Tech arrived.
Paul's a really good stand-up guy too.
Yeah, I've met Paul on many occasions and talked to him, and I met his wife twice. Seem to be nice people.
Okay, so we think having these guys closer and hopefully with time you'll get to know them a little better will help in terms of response and just awareness. I mean, I think any of them are available to answer questions if you see them in the streets. If there's any misbehavior, let us know. We'll root them out. Okay. The other component to that is we had plans, we thought that we might be successful in relocating this facility down to the Sanchez house down at the end. That's another one that we own. We actually came in and paved the parking lot. Found out after the decision was made, and we kind of started the process, that there is a homeowners association. There are some codes that we have to live by. So we're in the process of looking at those codes right now and seeing if we can do that. Whether or not we actually do it, I don't know. But that's another little thing, little adjustment that we're just trying to make. Okay. The only other thing I have to mention is the new South Berm construction. It continues. We're on target to have it completed by the end of April. We're in the process now of coming back over the sand material that's been laid down, and which gives us the primary containment. We're putting an impermeable fabric material over that, and then we'll build it up with clay, and then ultimately come back and put a limestone cap on the top of it. That work is, like I said, it's scheduled to be completed by the end of May. I've been out on it today, you can drive around it, and it looks good. The old South Berm remains above water, so it's still providing some primary containment. Okay. I think I've hit on most everything that I wanted to talk to you about. I did mention though about the seismicity remaining very low, relatively low. I think that's encouraging. A little dissatisfied with this change in the fill on 3A. You know, it could be that we come back next Friday and find out that it's back up at the top, and then we start looking at, okay, what happened last Friday? Maybe something was wrong there. It's just a matter of getting a series of data points before we can finally say this is what we got. Statistical average. Okay. So even though that's not good news, the good news is the seismicity remains really quiet, really calm, and that spells stability. So we're encouraged by that. Okay.
When the South Berm, the new South Berm is complete, the old berm that's there, it's gonna stay there, or be an attempt to remove it, or just leave it there?
We'll leave it there. We don't have any current plans to come in and take it out at the moment. We've considered what will happen ultimately, you know, with all of us. We've pondered what kind of circumstances that we may be facing at that time. It's hard to say what will end up there. I mean, it could be that portion remains stable, and we just don't know. We might be able to remove it.
If it subsides,